Okay, so this is your final exam review. So I'm going to go ahead and go through how to do each type of problem. I will only do one of each type, but I will let you know the answer to the other so that you can kind of check yourself as you go. So I'm just going to start by showing you number one, which is just using the order of operations. So as a reminder to what the order of operations is, generally we use the acronym PEMDAS. So we do parentheses or other grouping symbols, then exponents, then multiplication or division, whichever one comes first from left to right, then addition and subtraction, whichever comes first from left to right. So if I start at number one, I'm going to look and see if there's any parentheses, and there's not, so I don't have to worry about parentheses. And then I go ahead and go on to exponents. There's none of those either. So then I do either multiplication or division, whichever comes first. And there's no multiplication, but there is division, so I'm going to do that first. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I now have 5 plus 6 minus 6. And in this case, I just have addition and subtraction left, so I can just solve straight from left to right. So 5 plus 6 is 11. 11 minus 6 is 5. So the answer is D. On number two, I'm going to go ahead and let you try that one for yourself, but the answer is C. So you can check yourself. All right, numbers 3 and 4, we're solving by taking square roots. So the biggest problem I find that people have when solving by taking square roots is to make sure the square root is by itself first. So the first thing I need to do, I need this m squared to be by itself before I can take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to start by adding 9 to both sides, which gives me 9m squared equals 324 plus 9 is 333. And then I'm going to divide by 9. So 333 divided by 9. So these cancel, and I have m squared equals 37. Now that this is by itself, I can take the square root of both sides. And so these cancel. And every time I take the square root, it can be either positive or negative. And in this case, the square root of 37 doesn't simplify. So the answer is A, either a positive root 37 or a negative root 37. Number 4, you're going to do the same way. So you subtract the 2 first, then divide by 6, and then take the square root. And you end up with plus or minus the square root of 96. But the square root of 96 does simplify. And the square root of 96 simplifies to 4 root 6. So this is plus or minus 4 root 6. So once you try this problem, you should get the answer of D. Numbers 5 and 6 are using the quadratic formula, and I will give this to you if you ask for it on the test. I just don't have it written in your review. So the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that's all over 2a. So first I've got to remember what a, b, and c are, and standard form is written ax squared plus bx plus c. So if I look here, my 4 is my a, my negative 9 is my b, my 2 is my c. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug those numbers in here. So I start with a negative b, so a negative 9, which actually gives me a positive 9, plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared, which is 81, minus 4ac. So 4 times 4 times 2, and that's all over 2a, which is 2 times 4. So I know how tempting it is to just plug this whole thing into your calculator, and if you get it put in there exactly right, you can do that. But I find that most students have a tendency to get parentheses wrong or to mix things up, and they usually end up with the wrong answer. So it's easier, I think, to just simplify as you go. So I have 9 plus or minus the square root. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So I do 81. 81 minus 32, which is 49. So this is plus or minus the square root of 49 all over 8. And then I'll simplify a little further, so I have 9 plus or minus the square root of 49 is 7 over 8. So now to get my two solutions, I can do 9 plus 7 divided by 8. So I'll do that first. 9 plus 7 is 16 divided by 8. And then 9 minus 7 is 2 divided by 8. So there's my two solutions. I just need to simplify them. So 16 divided by 8 is 2. 2 over 8 just simplifies to 1/4. So my solution is B, 2 and 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and let you solve number 6, but I'll quickly figure out the answer. So number 6, the answer is B. So after you've solved it, you should get B as your answer. I'll go ahead and show you numbers 7 and 8 since one is subtraction and one is addition, but in theory they're about the same. So the first thing we need to remember is that we can only combine like terms when we're adding and subtracting. So I can do 5 minus a negative 6 because those are like terms. So 5 minus a negative 6 is the same as 5 plus 6, which is 11. And then my 5x to the 4th, there's no other x to the 4th, so there's nothing for me to subtract from that. So I have a 5x to the 4th. And then 7x to the 3rd minus x to the 3rd leaves me with 6x to the 3rd. And then I still have this negative 4x squared here, and it's minus a negative 4x squared, so that's plus 4x squared. So I have all my things here, but they're not in standard form, so it's going to be a little hard to find the answer. So remember that standard form goes from the highest exponent down to the lowest exponent. So in this one, I have 5x to the 4th, then plus 6x to the 3rd, plus 4x squared, plus 11. And if I look at my solutions, the only possibility is A. Number 8, we're going to do the exact same thing, except we're adding in the middle instead of subtracting. So I have 6a squared, and the only thing I can combine with that is my other a squared. So I have 6a squared plus a negative 5a squared. 6 plus a negative 5 is just 1a squared. And then I have 8a to the 3rd plus 5a to the 3rd, which is 13a to the 3rd. And then I have an a to the 4th, but there's no other a to the 4th, so I just have plus a to the 4th. And then I have plus 5, and there's nothing I can combine with it. So again, I want this in standard form, so it's a little bit easier to see my answer. So I start with a to the 4th, then plus 13a to the 3rd, plus a squared, plus 5. So my solution is C. Numbers 9 and 10, we're still dealing with polynomials, but we are now multiplying. So this is what most people call the rainbow method or foiling. I don't really like the term FOIL. Rainbow method is okay. So in order to do this, I have to multiply everything in here by everything in here. So I start with my a times a is a squared. A times a negative 3 is negative 3a. 1 times a is 1a, and 1 times a negative 3 is a negative 3. So then I can combine like terms. Negative 3a plus 1a is a negative 2a minus 3. And the option for that is C. I'm going to go ahead and let you solve number 10 for yourself, but I'll go ahead and tell you the answer is C. So try it and see if you can get C as your answer. On to the next page, we're doing long division. I'm going to show the long division using synthetic division because in this case it lets you decide. And from what I understand, most people prefer synthetic division, so I'm going to show you synthetic division. If you know how to do long division and you like it better, then that's totally great. Go ahead and do long division. So to do synthetic division, I first need to find the solution to this answer. So if I set this equal to 0, I can add 9 to both sides, and n equals 9. So I'm going to put 9 in my nice little cubbyhole to start. And then across the top, I'm listing the coefficients of my polynomial. And coefficients are the first number of each term. So I have a 2, and then a negative 21, and then a 25, and then an 8. So I can start by bringing down the 2, and then I do 2 times 9 is 18. Negative 21 plus 18 is a negative 3. Negative 3 times 9 is a negative 27. 25 plus a negative 27 is a negative 2. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. 8 plus a negative 18 is a negative 10. So I started with an n to the third polynomial, and then I divided one n out. So my answer should be an n squared polynomial. So I start with 2n squared, and then I just go down one each time. So minus 3n minus 2, and then this 10 is actually my remainder, which goes over whatever I'm dividing by. So in this case, it's n minus 9. So if I look over here, 2n squared minus 3n minus 2 minus 10 over n minus 9, answer B is my solution. And then, just like I've done in the past, I'm going to go ahead and let you try number 12 on your own, but let's go ahead and see what the answer is so that you can check yourself. So number 12, the solution is A. So try it and see if you can get solution A as your answer. 13 and 14 are inverse functions. So if this is written a little bit differently than you've seen it before, but the process is the exact same thing, this f of n is the same as this saying y equals the cube root of negative n minus 2, and I know you're used to seeing an x. Stay with me, the process is the same thing. So I'm going to switch my variables. So I have n equals the cube root of negative y minus 2. And then in order to solve this, I'm just going to try and get y by itself. So to get rid of this cube root, I'm going to cube both sides, and then these cancel. So I have n cubed equals negative y minus 2. Now, this y being negative tends to throw things a little, so I'm going to go ahead and add y to both sides right here from the very beginning. So I have n cubed plus y equals a negative 2. And now to get y by itself, I've got to get rid of this n cubed. So I'm going to minus an n cubed from both sides. So these cancel. And I have y equals a negative n cubed minus 2. Now I started with an f of n, so when I write my inverse function, I write it with an f to negative 1 of n, and then it's still equal to that same thing. And if I look over at my solutions, answer C is my solution. So I'm going to have you go ahead and try number 14, and let's see what the answer is so you can check yourself. The answer of which is B. So try number 14 and see if you can get answer B. And then we'll go on to 15 and 16, which I will show you both. So starting with 15, complex operations, we can just go ahead and combine like terms. So in this case, negative 3, there's nothing else I can combine with that. It's just going to stay negative 3. But I can do 4i minus 5i is a negative I, plus 6i is a positive 5i. And that's it. So this one is letter C. So that's the first half of your multiple choice section. I'm going to go ahead and make a second video for the second half of your multiple choice question, but I'm going to go ahead and give you your clue now, which is if you draw a smiley face in the bottom right-hand corner on the first page of your test, then I will give you a bonus point. So thanks for watching. Go ahead and watch the next video for another clue.